And it's been a while since you guys have been in a DAC meeting, I think, but this is a whole new group. And so we're going to try and get you oriented and up to speed as best we can so that your work on this group will be successful this year, and you and the staff will be able to work together seamlessly. So we've got a call to order that someone needs to do. So is there a person who would normally do that, or shall I do that?
We will go ahead and do that until we have our chair elected for the board.
Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and welcome everybody. We're going to be going through a little bit of a meet and greet, and we're going to be doing that just by having you answer a few questions. And what I'd like you to be able to do is I'll call on you in the order that I see you in your boxes. If some of you have been on Zoom before, you'll kind of know the routine, but if you'll wait to have me call on you before you speak, and then keep yourself muted throughout the meeting if possible. And we'll use either the raised hand function, or you can raise your hand and I'll watch for you as well. I think we'll be able to see everybody on one screen. So why don't we start with that, and then we'll move into some of the other agenda items that we have. You all got a packet ahead of this meeting, so you had hopefully an opportunity to review all that information, and you kind of have an idea of what we're going to be doing tonight. So I will start with, find my prompt for you all. And I'm hopefully there won't be too much background noise. So what I'd like you to do in the way of introduction is to state your name and the area of the Ncprd that you reside in, and then one reason that you applied for the DAC or the DAC, and then one thing that you'd like to see the group accomplish this first year as a new team. So I think I will start with Maureen if she's willing to do that.
Hi, I'm Maureen. I'm retired medical assistant from OHSU. I'm in Section 4 representative, and I had some really good interactions lately with the county regarding the park that's in my own neighborhood. And when offered an opportunity to participate and be an engaged citizen, I felt like I had the time to do that. And hopefully Candy's let me know that this is, like, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first pilot project with all of these citizens involved. So I'm just hoping to contribute to the success of that. And that would be my goal this year.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I see Joel next in my screen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joel Bergman. I'm actually a representative for the Clackamas County Advisory Board to the Milwaukee Center, or the Community Center representative. I joined that board back in 2014 because my family uses the programming at the time. My young daughters at the time, I should say, used the programming. Had some neighbors that were involved with Meals on Wheels, and that kind of drew me to the Clackamas County Advisory Board to the Milwaukee Center. They appointed me as the then DAB representative, which I joined back in June of 2019. And I've been carried over to the new DAC now that we've gotten through all the bylaws and everything. So I'm really anxious to see us move forward and deal with something besides bylaws, and looking forward to meeting everyone, hopefully in person soon. I guess I'm excited to see us start dealing with the business at hand, in particular for myself and the group I guess I'm representing right now. There's some naming issues on the table that I'd like to see dealt with. And I'm also looking forward to the parks tours that we have lined up. I think that'll be a great opportunity to get acquainted with areas that maybe all of us are not normally acquainted with. So anyway, nice to meet everyone.
Great, thank you, Joel. Okay, Deborah, I have you next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Deborah Bakowski. I'm a retired professor from Marylhurst. And like Joel and like Ben and Grover, I've been on the previous version of the board. And we went through the tortuous process of amending the bylaws. So I think we're all thrilled to death that that's done and we can get on with the reason that we all wanted to be on the board in the first place, namely to improve the park situation in the whole area. So, and that's what I hope that we actually accomplish on my term here.
Great, thank you, Deborah. All right, Ben, you're next on my screen.
Great. Hi, thank you. My name is Ben Johnson, and I am a landscape architect by trade. I live in Zone 5, which is Milwaukee, but based on my trade and working for park districts, I really understand that a strength of a district isn't based on any one particular area, but the entire district as a whole. And I think a lot of us kind of have those values based on conversations we had over the past year about getting lifting up the entire district, and hopefully this group can get it going on a real positive trajectory. I'm really excited about Milwaukee Bay Park, and I hope that you all see that that project will be a gem for the entire district, even though it has the name Milwaukee in it and it's in Milwaukee. It really is a regional jewel, and I think that us as a body should and hopefully recognize that and really look forward to that project and other projects throughout the entire district becoming a reality. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ben. Okay, Grover, you're next.
Hi, I'm Grover Bornefeld. I live in Jennings Lodge, which is in the heart of Sub-Area 1. And I was, as Private mentioned, on the District Advisory Board that was assigned the opportunity to refocus, to have a broader reach and more community involvement. So we modeled the current model we have now after the original 1990-91 model where there were 5 sub areas and each sub area had representatives on the board and board committee. And the main focus was to have a broader reach. And what I really see is the opportunity that is waiting for us is to have a broader sense of pride, ownership, involvement, and as we talk all the time about that there's not enough money to do this or that, so there's that people would be willing to see the gem and be willing to see what needs to be done. The other part is that by having the sub areas, it gives us a chance to revisit the equity of the district across all parts and having eyes from all of those. And I hope to soon do away with these zones, which are long overdue and have caused much problems. So my biggest goal for this year is to broaden the involvement and to be able to focus on what's needed in equity across the one district. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Grover. All right, David, you're next.
Hi, this is David Gilman. I'm a retired electrical engineer from the Bonneville Power Administration. Let's say I'm in Zone 4 representative. The reason I was on the zone, the reason why I selected to be in the DAC was there's nobody else running in our area. So I wanted to make sure we had representation. I started off working with being on our CPO and worked with Grover and some of the other folks on getting it started. So I felt that I needed to continue on with it. What I hope to accomplish is to learn something about the Parks Department and then be able to help people get the Parks Department moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, Ryan, you're next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Stee. I am actually a park and recreation long range or park and recreation planner, and I have a lot of experience with equity-based planning. So that's a reason why I applied for the DAC. I've always worked for other agencies and communities, and I thought it was time to provide some of my 22 years of expertise for my community. So that's why I'm taking the big leap in volunteering and working with all of you. There's actually two things I really want to accomplish. The first one is a little light. It's just, I know the value of advisory committee, and I know the strength that it can provide the staff. And I really want to make sure that my involvement is productive for the district staff, and it helps them do their job even better. They're already doing a great job, and I really want to be there to support them. And I think the second part is there's the elephant in the room of funding. And I think I hope that we can start that discussion piece, because we can't create all these things without funding. So those are two things. I cheated. I'm sorry, Amy.
That's okay.
Okay. You can just take away from me later, okay?
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, Luca, you're next.
Hey everybody, Luca Doritos, sub area 3. I very much applied to be a part of this because this, as you can tell from my voice, this is not originally where I'm from. This is actually the 5th country that I've held residency in. And we chose this to be our home 3 years ago. And we chose to come here because this is where we wanted to raise our families. And we now have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. So to be a part of this is something that's very personal for us, because this shapes the future of where our kids are going to be growing up and where we are currently playing. And I heard about this. This is actually my 2nd year volunteering on the budget committee of Ncprd. So it's great to hear that this was coming in and coming to fruition. And I have the experience when I moved here from Toronto, Canada, and I worked in sports and entertainment. So I worked directly alongside the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Raptors and Toronto FC. So I have that experience there that I'm no longer using. I now work for Bank of America. So I wanted to be able to use that sort of for a greater good and to help as much as I possibly can for the community that we chose to be our home for the future. What I would like to see us do, especially in our first year, I think one of our challenges, but I think one of a huge opportunity, is to be able to reach out to our citizens and our residents and have them realize that we're actually here, that they have a voice. And, once COVID finally goes away, whether it's a town hall or a meeting, or it's a block party that you just randomly go, by the way, I'm part of this, to know that they're heard, because at the end of the day, we're all using the facilities, and we all have plans and dreams and hopes and fears and everything. And if we can bring that all together, I think that will make us all stronger also for when all our terms are up, for those that pick up further in the future, that we've built a solid foundation from day one.
That's great. Thank you, Luca. Okay, Anata, I see you next.
Hi, I'm Anita, but you'd never know
sorry.
from the spelling, and you don't need to apologize. It's very misleading. And I agree with all these things that everybody else is saying. Parks have always been really important to me. National parks, regional parks, local parks. And I live within about a 7-minute walk from Rivervilla Park. So I've really put down some roots there and been there hundreds of times. And we recently had an event there where we worked with Tanya to do some mulching and weeding. And it's just a fabulous way to kind of take ownership of a park and be more connected to it than ever. I really like the role of reaching out to people and, the outreach part of this, and knowing that we're going to be doing a great deal of that and report what goes on to our citizens and get input from residents to bring back to Ncprd and the governing board. And I agree, the funding is the elephant in the room that I hope we can make a difference about.
Great, thanks, Anata. All right, and I see Commissioner Savas in my screen next. Would you prefer to be called Commissioner or Paul in this group?
Whatever you're comfortable with, all comfortable with. It doesn't matter to me. I'm Paul Savas, Clackamas County Commissioner, but I happen to be a lifelong resident of the district. Moved here in moved to Clackamas in 1984. I'm the liaison from the commission or the board of directors of Ncprd to you all. So I'm here to help if needed, be called upon, or any questions or guidance. And I am extremely excited the fact that we're all here today putting this group together. It's been a long haul. It's in my tenure as a commissioner, we've had to repair a number of relationships and organizations, and hopefully, I think we're at the point where we can very soon check this one off, that all our work and cleanup is done. So I'm very excited so that you all can be a part of launching the new DAC and taking us to a place that resolves some of the equity issues in the district. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. And Jan, I know you joined us a little bit later. I'm going to ask you to answer 3 questions as a meet and greet. Welcome to the meeting. One is just to say your name and the area that you represent in the Ncprd, and then one reason that you applied for the DAC. And then lastly, one thing that you'd like to see the group accomplish for this first year with the new team. And you'll need to unmute.
Every time a plane flew over, I disconnected. So I have not heard the wonderful introduction from any of you, and I apologize. I even got a call from Jason saying what's going on, which was nice. But I applied because I was promoted. So it came from someone else to put me in this direction, which is kind of nice. And I've lived in this, I'm in Area 3, which I just found out now that I've read everything that we're supposed to read. And I've lived here since 1995, and my sole connection has been with the district, with the aquatic center. Thank goodness for the aquatic center, because those of us who are old and dumpy have a resource for exercise and health and well-being. But this is a new opportunity to meet lots of people who have a vision for promoting wellness in parks, in centers, in aquatic centers, so that each of us has the ability and a channel for best living, clean living, and promoting health and well-being amongst all the people whom we encounter. Does that do it?
That's great. Thank you, Jan. You all, I'm seeing all of you new members shaking your heads as people are talking, and I can see points of agreement already and the information that you're sharing about yourselves and about what you're hoping to accomplish as a group. Part of your team is also the staff, and I would like to have them introduce themselves as well. And so I'm going to start with you, Candy, if that's okay.
Hi, I'm Candy Ho. I go by pronouns she, her. I have actually worked for the district for over 27 years, and I reside in sub-area 3, and I've lived here for 26 years. After working here, I decided this was definitely where I wanted to live as well. And I am currently acting director for the district right now.
Great, thanks, Candy. And I want to just acknowledge that I think Desi is not with us at this meeting yet, right? Is that okay? So hopefully we'll catch up with Desi at the next meeting if we're not joined today. Okay, the next staff person that I see in my screen is Molina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Molina Defrancesco. I'm the Marketing Communications Manager at Ncprd, and I've been with the district for over 5 years now. I'll pass the baton.
Thank you. Okay, Heather, your turn.
Hi, and it's really great to meet everyone who I haven't met before, so welcome everybody. I'm Heather Cook, and I'm the Acting Planning and Development Manager for Ncprd. I've been with the district for about, I guess, about 3.5 years now. I love the work. I mean, I'm so happy to be here. I love Parks and Rec, and I have kind of a long history of planning, but also actually working in the recreational field just as a youngster once upon a time, and even into some of my, older years. I live nearby. I'm not in the district, but I live about a mile outside the district, and I've spent a lot of time in the district with my family over the years. So it's great to be a part of this crew, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you guys.
Great, thanks, Heather. And now I see Sarah.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Eckman. I'm the Interim Director with Business and Community Services, and Ncprd is a part of our department. For a little while longer, and we don't want to see them go, but I am just so happy to see you all. I want to extend huge thanks to just everybody here for all the work it took to get to this point, to have the District Advisory Committee in this new format. I'm just very excited to see the group getting established and charting a course forward to help guide the decisions for this district. And I do live in the district. I was just looking, I'm right on the line between 1 and 2. So I think I'm 1 block in sub area 2. So also have this personal interest as we frequent parks in the district and use a lot of the facilities. So love working here, love working on all these projects and with all these people. So thank you for being here and dedicating your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, and we've got Amanda and Jessica down there, and I'm going to invite Amanda to join us real quick and introduce herself.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name's Amanda Mendez. I'm an aquatic and recreation supervisor. I work out of specifically the aquatic park, and I've worked for the Parks District for 23 years, and I live just outside of the boundary of Ncprd.
Thanks, Amanda. And Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Botteron. I met with all of you, so you have met me before. I'm the administrative specialist at Ncprd, and I've been with the department a little over a year now.
Thanks, Jessica. And Jessica's helping us with our technology too. So it's great to have somebody doing that and I don't have to. And my name's Amy Herman. I'm a facilitator and I work with Clackamas County as well, but I'm in the department called Resolution Services. And we provide mediation, facilitation, and training for all sorts of people. But we get invited into these projects every once in a while, and some of us have worked together in the past. I see familiar faces and others I haven't met yet. So I appreciate being involved in just being here to help you and support you in your work. And I know that there's been a lot that's gone into making sure that you can be here today. So I appreciate everything that everyone's done to bring you into this space. You also had a lot of information that was shared with you recently so that you could get up to speed. And the importance of that is just so that everybody sort of has the same grounding documents and understanding of what processes you're working from. You've obviously got things like the bylaws that were just developed last year, and a code of conduct that you follow, and the agendas that staff help put together for you to guide the work that you're going to be focusing on. And it's always great if everybody's up to speed and ready to go when a meeting begins. So that's really helpful to the whole group. What I'd like to be able to do at this point is just talk a little bit about the governance. And I don't know if we're going to bring the slideshow up at this point or if you wanted to do an icebreaker first. I was just trying to think about timing.
Actually, we were going to go ahead and do our icebreaker and then go into the presentation.
Great. Okay. All right. So a little bit more of this meet and greet kind of stuff. I think it's, it's hard because you're not all in the same room together. So you can't kind of, break off and have these conversations that you might have between breaks, before meetings, after meetings, and at breaks. So I'm going to just ask you to do one more thing to try and help you guys get to know each other a little bit better before we get started. And I'm looking for my little note here. Okay, here it is. This is what I'd like you to ponder, and then I think I will maybe go in reverse order. So I'll surprise you and let you know who's speaking first. So share briefly about a time that you enjoyed spending time in a park or a recreation setting. How is that significant to you? And you may have already sort of addressed a little bit of that in your introduction, but then if you could think of something that's just really specific, that could be something that you could share briefly. So any questions about that prompt? Okay, great. And I think Jan, I'll have you start. Let's see if we've got you or not. It looks like you might be frozen. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you, Jan. And Anada, why don't you kick this one off for us? And you need to unmute. That's the tough part of Zoom, is always forgetting to take your speaker off.
Just the first thing that comes to mind is that I was at the Gladstone Nature Park the other day for the first time, and it was the kind of weather that kept most people away, so I had the whole park to myself. And there's something pretty magical about that, even though I love the community aspect of being in parks with other people. But just wandering around and discovering a new park that I hadn't been to, and getting, you know, just how you feel in your body when you're in a place like that. It's just so cool.
Thank you, Anada. Okay, Jan, let's try you again.
It's not going to be a park here, but growing up in Eugene, my family on Friday nights would often go to Spencer's Butte.
Oh.
And we would have a dinner of things like watermelon, sandwiches, and then just play in the park. And they had this marvelous thing that was a board and hinges. And you could get on this with as many people as you wanted and swing back and forth. And if you felt a little bit rusty, you could do it so fast people fell off. But we were told we shouldn't do that. But this was Friday nights, air was free, food was delicious, and we got to spend time out of doors.
Oh, that's lovely, Jan. Thank you.
I'm losing it again.
All right, so backwards, I'm at Luca.
Unmute. All right, here we go. So I've actually reflected on this a bit in conversations with Candy, but I grew up in Australia as a competitive swimmer, and bouncing around the world and living in different countries. I'd go in and out of the pool, masters, junior, whatever. And then when we moved here, this is a little sort of sappy, but the first time I walked into the aquatic center, I actually teared up. And my wife sort of looked at me and she's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" type thing. I said, "No, you don't understand. As a swimmer, the smell of chlorine brings back all the memories of my childhood. And to walk in there, I was suddenly transported back to being a little kid in Australia in a country that is obsessed with parks and recreation and taking care of their youth. And I remember walking in there, and it was almost the first time that I got a sense of feeling, okay, we're in the right place. This is where we need to live. That was sort of, it sounds like a big deal just to walk into a swimming pool to feel all that. But when you spent, 100 hours a month in a swimming pool, it just brought all that back for me. And it really sort of drilled home to us the reasons why we moved to be here and call this place home.
Thank you, Luca. Okay, Ryan.
All right. So I grew up, I was born and raised here in Oregon. I'm a fourth generation Oregonian. So there's this deep connection to the land for my family and I. But I have, this is a little secret. I manage severe anxiety and have struggled with mental health issues throughout my life. And my biggest thing since I was a kid is getting into the woods and being in nature. So I have a very big focus on natural spaces. And later on started trail running, and I'm also a mountain climber. So it's really important for me to connect to those quiet spaces, and whatever I can create around me or in my neighborhood is really important to me. So it's about happiness and health for me.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, David.
I'm going to do something simple and recent. I enjoy walking with my dog, and we go down to the local park or the school or open spaces, and just sometimes we're by ourselves, and other times we'll run into people that we know, or especially people with other dogs, and then they can play and have a good time. And sometimes we'll meet down at the local school, which is part of the Parks Department, I think. And the dogs will be a big group of dogs there, and everybody will play. The dogs will all play, and the people will all talk together. And that's good communication.
That's great. Thank you, David. Okay, Grover.
So parks, as a kid, we would go camping a lot, and I really enjoyed that. So I never knew that when I was an adult, I would spend 25 years working with inner city kids, most of which had never been in nature. And one of the parts of the long-term project we did with each of those groups every year was we'd go on a camping trip. And it always was the most enjoyable thing for me. These kids who are only used to the inner city, to be able to be in nature and to just feel the freedom. And the first day was crazy, but they just started to settle in and really have an appreciation. So for me, that is the greatest joy. And I am just thrilled about the growth that's going on here and the potential we have to have more of getting kids into parks.
Great. Thanks, Grover. Okay, Ben.
My turn. I'll just reflect on an experience that I just had recently. You know, as most of you all probably experienced, COVID and being indoors and isolated has not been super fun. And, you know, the last couple months with being vaccinated and getting out has been quite wonderful and rejuvenating. And Gateway Green is a mountain bike park in Portland that opened recently, and actually was very fortunate to work on the project. So I took my son there for the first time for off-road biking a couple weeks ago, and just to see him and even feel for myself kind of that freedom and joy of mountain biking, and seeing him mountain bike for the first time, and then seeing how the park was loved and used and people outside and smiles on their faces. It was so cool. And I thought, wow, North Clackamas has to get a mountain bike park.
Thanks, Ben. All right, Deborah.
Well, I'm going to echo what Anita said about the Gladstone Nature Park. My husband is part of FOGNAP, which is the volunteer group that keeps the park going and does improvements and everything. So we go there every single day and hike. And for me, the really fun thing about it is that there is something new in that park every single day. There's something new blooming or growing or changing. An animal appears or we don't see one. There's really, if you pay attention, it's a changing thing and it changes daily. And it's just a wonderful place to be. So we do it every day.
That's great. Thanks, Deborah. Okay, Joel.
Generally speaking, I think one of my favorite things about our district is just being able to explore it with my family. Certainly taking my young daughters to new parks in our area that maybe some that I've never been to has always been fun. But one of my most delightful memories is definitely the father-daughter dinner dance that we've attended for about 4 or 5 straight years until recently. And perfecting my dad dance has been a great source of pride for me. I own the box. I don't get out of the box, and I'm a pretty proficient dad dancer now, thanks to that. But it is a great community building event, and those kinds of programs are just what keep us so engaged in this district. So that's definitely been a highlight.
Great, thanks, Joel. Okay, Maureen, and then Paul.
I was just sitting here thinking about all the parks and all the times that I've enjoyed everything from the little neighborhood park that's right down the street from my house to the aquatic center built in '95, which just made living here so much better, I have to say. And then I got to even reminiscing back in 1989 when I moved to Portland. I played a lot of softball and hit probably every one of those parks for co-ed and women's league, and a great sense of not only community there, but we often would comment how lucky we were to have these great ball fields available to us, and bringing people together in a healthy way. And you just don't really think about it very much until you're there and you understand how much work it takes to keep these nice gyms in our community, keep them functioning and keep them funded. So let's do our job and keep that going, right?
Thank you, Maureen. Okay, and Paul.
Yeah, well, when I was really young, my dad was the Little League coach, so I played Little League. And so from the recreation side, that was my entree into parks. And I grew up in an area in Southern California that was pretty rural at the time, that urbanized pretty quickly, Orange County, California. So as the area urbanized, there really wasn't a lot of parks being built. And I remember my first trip to Mount Palomar, the observatory. It's about 6,000 feet elevation. And we camped there for 2 nights, rode our bikes, went to the observatory. But I think this part was that just kind of getting back to the nature elements, the natural space, the open space that I forgot about, or didn't experience because of all that urban growth. So seeing the stars as a child, so intense, was just, I think, something I'll never forget. But I really realized that bringing back into the urbanization piece, why it's so important, I think, to have all of those, right? All those connections, the connections to nature, to trails, to recreation, and to kids, because I was a kid at the time. And I think those memories and those values are really important. And as a parent, my kids, they played, and both my kids were mini hoopers. So I got my first entree to the district was at the old site, which is now the college. So yeah, I got a lot of fond memories, but I really think that having more places for kids to play and to have all those nature elements in there is huge for us with all the urban pressures and surroundings around us. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, and I'm going to include staff too, because we're a team here. So I'm going to ask Candy to share something.
And that was just anything with Parks and Rec, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I know we kind of tied it into the district, and I guess mine does. I grew up, I was a pool rat, so literally that's where I grew up, was at the Y, and being in the water. So that is what drew me to the Parks District. My sister lived in the area and kept saying, they're building a big pool, you have to go there, go check that out. And I ended up happening into that, and that's where I've been. But I absolutely love outdoors and nature. And so I think my piece, I like swimming. You can talk to yourself, scream, cry, whatever, nobody knows. You can swim, you go through it all. And so that's been one of those things that has always carried me through the years and everything. And now recently with my kids, of course, they have to swim and they do a lot of activities, but we just started doing scuba diving, and I enjoy water and I love being outdoors.
That's great. Thanks, Candy. Molina?
Yeah, so agreeing with everyone else, that connection to nature, but I especially want to also call out, programming. So for me, when I was young, at the age of 3, my first interaction with Parks and Recreation was with a dance class. And so just being in that space to learn and grow and connect with others in a positive environment with these amazing staff members and mentors. And, you know, I continued to dance until I was 17 because of it and can tap dance to this day, so.
Thanks, Molina. Heather.
Well, first of all, it's great to hear everyone's stories. It's bringing me back to my childhood and all these different park and rec experiences that I remember. But probably my fondest is just our local swim pool. We had a lot of rivalry between each of the neighborhood pools. So we'd all get together in the summer and swim for a team. And it wasn't really very competitive. And none of us were exceptionally great swimmers, but it was just so much fun. And it sort of anchored our day, probably kept us out of trouble. But, you know, back then compared to kids now, we were just kind of feral, you know, we just kind of wandered around all day, maybe with shoes, maybe not. And just being at the pool and getting out of the heat and having that independence and kind of being in a communal place where people are kind of at least keeping a passive eye on each other. It was a great way to grow up, and it didn't take, you know, needing to have your own big backyard or needing to have your own private pool. And that was, you know, really important for my family. So I think it's a really big part of my childhood and part of the reason I still love to, you know, swim and just take advantage of parks.
Thank you, Heather. Sarah.
I've been thinking, because I agree, it brings back a lot of memories from growing up. But I think for me right now, getting to our local parks is like this sweet, sweet space that I cherish so much, because life is so full. I have 2 little kids and work and all this stuff. And so, you know, whether it's up at View Acres Elementary School or down at Risley Park, it's like this sweet moment in time where you can just be totally present. And I love it so much because there's just not a lot of time and space to do that. You know, you're at home, even if you're in the backyard, you're like, oh, I have to go change the laundry or check what message came in or whatever it is. And it's like this permission when you get to the park where you just get to be in the moment. And it's so valuable having those parks really close by and able to get to and just watch the joy of the children there. And so I think that's what's really had a huge impact for me in the last couple of years.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Okay, Jessica.
Yeah, I've always just enjoyed being outside. I grew up playing sports. Some of the sports I played were softball and soccer. So I've just always enjoyed being out on a field, and I played throughout high school. So it's always just brought me joy. And in my adult years, I've really gotten into hiking and recently kayaking, which just being out in general outside gives me a lot of joy, and it's peaceful and you can think through everything and de-stress. So it's just really something I enjoy doing.
Thanks, Jessica. And Amanda.
So now with COVID lifting, I spend a lot of time with my nephew. He just turned 9, and in his neighborhood is Trillium Park, so on the east side of Ncprd, and he loves going there. And so we'll just walk down there, and he gets to see it doesn't have the formality of a play date, right? He's just meeting his friends who live in the neighborhood who happen to walk down there, and I get to meet their parents. It's nice that there's just a place for kids to go without having to set up all these dates and times, and just let them play and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And I think for me, at least as an adult with children, I've enjoyed having the parks around the neighborhood just to take the kids to, but we also now still have this beautiful little wooded park where we take the dog for a walk every day. And it's just nice to be able to step outside and into the greenery and the pathway and, you know, run into people as David was saying with other dogs and all that. My growing up was mostly on horseback, and I was in a county down in Eugene. So we often just went on the trails wherever we could go and down to the water. And I think the parks around this area have, you know, many times you'll be able to get to the water by going to a park. And that's a really beautiful thing to be able to do when the weather's great and people just want to go relax and play. So we live in a beautiful place. And I appreciate that you're spending some of your volunteer time making sure that those spaces are available to everybody. All right, so we're gonna, I think at this point, go into a slideshow, but I'm thinking it might be nice for everybody just to take a quick break. What do you think? Should we just do like a little 5-minute break and come back to our screens so we can stretch a little bit? That's my dog's barking. She says yes. Okay, so come back. Let's see, what is it? It's come back at about 7:25. Okay, we're getting close. We've got just another minute to get people back together again, and then we'll put up some slides.
And Molina, I can share it.
I just pulled it up, but let me know if you'd rather.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we can go ahead and get started. The information that we're covering tonight it is all information that you received in your packet, and we appreciate everybody picking that up. We've just highlighted a few things in regards to business and our district advisory committee, how it was developed, and then our bylaws that'll be referenced. And we've also asked County Council will be joining us later this evening as well, just to kind of go over our roles and responsibilities and can answer any questions that you may have in regards to the overview of our bylaws. Next. In general overview, we've already gone through our welcome and meet and greet. We plan to cover organizational structure, the purpose and goals of the District Advisory Committee, the process flow, our code of conduct, an overview of bylaws, and then confirm our upcoming meeting schedule. The North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District is a service district of Clackamas County. And as you can see here in this organizational structure, currently we reside in the Business and Community Services Department within Clackamas County. And so we also have our District Advisory Board that is shown on this diagram. Next. As of July 1st, Ncprd will be its own department within Clackamas County. And so the biggest change is that our director will report directly to the county administrator. And as you can see, the District Advisory Committee is the advisory committee to our board of directors, which is the Board of County Commissioners, as well as guidance for the district. And you'll have a link directly to our director. On this slide, you also see that we have 5 programs within our budget. We have our Ncprd administration, and that houses our marketing and communications, finance, budget, and business operations. They oversee risk management and human resources as well. We have asset development. We have park, trails, and natural areas. And that area has parks maintenance, natural resources, and it also maintains all facility maintenance. Our recreation program has aquatics, recreation, sports, and all facility rentals. And we have older adult services that houses our nutrition, transportation, and social services. And you'll also see on this diagram that we do have our Milwaukee Center Community Center Advisory Board that advises the Milwaukee Center, which is in line with our older adult services as well as our recreation program line. Next. As I mentioned, the Board of County Commissioners are our governing board of directors for the Parks District. And then Amy, did you want to share a code of conduct?
Yes, I wanted to just, I think you've got a copy of this in your packet, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of it. The code of conduct is actually a policy that you, I think, were given, but this is just the highlights. So serving the best interest of the District Advisory Committee as a whole, regardless of personal interest. And this can be something that maybe people might struggle with a little bit if you've got something that you really want to try and accomplish within your own area. But I think as people work together collaboratively, you'll be able to kind of weigh and measure those things you were talking about earlier in terms of, you know, competition for funding. Maybe there's not enough to go around, but there are possibly ways that you can make decisions that are going to allow everybody to eventually get their needs met. So just kind of keep that in mind as a higher goal. You know, what's going to be the best for the good of the group, the good of the district. And then conducting open, fair, and well publicized meetings. Staff does a good job of this, I think. So you'll be well supported in that. Treating all staff, colleagues, and members of the public with respect and dignity. And that also, you know, sort of feeds back to the prior topic of making sure that everybody has access to information and decisions are made openly and in the public eye. And then providing opportunities for meaningful participation by all communities. You've got a good start with that, and having your representation of all the different areas in the district. And so, you know, carrying information back and forth between your communities and the advisory committee will be important. Performing duties without bias for or against any individual or group. We keep our minds open and listen for understanding, help ourselves to understand other people's perspectives so that we can make better decisions and make sure that our own voices are heard as well as others in our work. Acting within the boundaries of authority as advisory to the Board of County Commissioners, you know, there is sort of a chain of decision making. And so advisory committees are just that. They make recommendations and advise. It's not a guarantee that you're going to have your position implemented, but to be able to put that information forward is important. Acting, let's see, complying with all other aspects of the Oregon Public Records Law, public meeting laws, ethics, and election laws. Of course, we need to do that as a government body. So advisory committees are also expected to follow along and make sure we comply with those laws. Report all concerns or alleged violations promptly to the advisory board chair and staff liaison. It's important that things get dealt with as soon as possible if there is an issue. We don't expect one or hope to have one, but if you do have a concern or you think there's been a violation somehow, then please step up and make sure that you make yourself known and tell people about it. So that's generally an overview, and you also have the in-depth policy to read as well. So thank you. And Zoom etiquette, that's me too. Okay, so just in order for you all to work well together, whether you're in a Zoom meeting or whether you're eventually present in the same room, but specifically for what we're dealing with now, being present by setting aside your smartphones. And as I said, listening to understand, asking people questions to clarify, also sharing airtime with others. And this is partly what the facilitator can do to help, is to make sure that nobody's kind of just not ignored, but not called upon. If there are a lot of people talking, we have to make sure that we're helping everybody have their voices heard. And then making sure that the overarching goals are ahead of you and visible to you as you're doing your work, so that you can all as a team work toward the things that you're trying to accomplish. And then using Zoom effectively, obviously joining meetings a few minutes early like we did tonight to make sure that we can straighten out anything that's not working. Muting your audio when you're not speaking, you're doing a nice job of that, thank you. Leaving your video on during the meeting, but turning it off if you leave the screen. And then using the icons that are down at the bottom of the screen, the chat box and the hand raise function. You'll become more familiar with those if you haven't used them very much. And if you have any questions at all, please let us know and we'll help you with that. And then just let me know if there's anything you need. Closed caption function is an example, but if we want to make sure that you're able to participate easily in the meetings. So let us know if there's anything that you need to do that. Okay. All right, next slide.
We have several committees that provide direction for our district. We have you guys as our district advisory committee. We have the Milwaukee Center Community Advisory Board, and then we have our budget committee. That's also required, obviously. Next. We also receive input and guidance from many different community groups. We work with citizen planning organizations. The city of Milwaukee has a Parks and Recreation Board and neighborhood district associations. There are friends of groups. There's a Recreation Services Committee. We have project-specific advisory board committees and task force and other volunteer groups that we work with. The purpose of the District Advisory Board is to advise the NCPRD Board of Directors on acquisition, design, planning, and the development of parks and recreation facilities, and on the programs, maintenance, and operations of the district. The goals of the District Advisory Committee is to evaluate and address NCPRD programs and facilities, and work to address challenges, desires, and needs of all residents. To make policy level recommendations regarding acquisitions, assets, capital improvements, programs, maintenance, and operations to be approved by our Board of Directors, and to provide recommendations during the annual budget process for, again, acquisition, development, operation, maintenance of NCPRD programs and facilities. So what's new? From the District Advisory Board that we had in the past, we have new bylaws. We've renamed, we're the District Advisory Committee. There are 11 members in our committee. We've redrawn our sub areas with equal population as our distribution. The Board of Directors may appoint one of its members as a non-voting liaison, and we have Commissioner Savas joining us. The DAC members of the unincorporated areas are recruited, and they're recommended by community members and appointed by the board, which is a new process as well. Next. As you guys are probably more familiar with this sub area, again, this is the map with that equal distribution. 2 members were recommended by the city of Milwaukee for sub area 5. We had 8 members from the 4 unincorporated sub areas that were recommended by the citizens. And we have the 1 at-large position representing community centers that was recommended by the Milwaukee Center Community Advisory Board. When we talk about process flow or how communication travels, the District Advisory Committee actually receives information from staff as well as citizens and everyone, and they provide recommendations on parks, programs, and facilities. These could be all different types of things. As we'll be talking about park naming, facility naming, obviously we're all talking about the needs of funding, but different types of funding, program updates, operations, capital, and all different types of NCPRD business. Staff will provide input and information to the District Advisory Committee for guidance, as well as information for them to review and provide business items for our Board of Directors. And those advisory items would then be brought from staff to the Board of Directors for actions and approval. At the bottom of the slide, you can see public input has arrows going to all 3 areas. And that includes the District Advisory Committee. As you guys are in the community, these meetings are public. We had a dozen people or so, and I know many are staff, but that are watching and listening to this meeting now. But public can attend any of our meetings. They can email and provide input, or any input that comes to us, we will also share with the District Advisory Committee. Staff, as well as our NCPRD Board of Directors, also receive direct input from our citizens. Next. The District Advisory Committee is made up of officers and staffing. We will be electing a chairperson and a vice chair. We have a secretary, and we have a Board of Director liaison. The secretary right now is Jessica Badran. She is our administrative assistant for the district. And then our Board of Directors liaison is Commissioner Savas. We will be electing a chairperson and a vice chair that you guys will actually be electing within your group. It is a one-year service. You can be reelected to serve a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. The selection of the DAC officers is a simple majority vote. Elections are held annually, typically at the first order of business. The outgoing chair will conduct the election and immediately following the results, turn the meeting over to the newly elected chair. We plan to have discussion about officers at our next meeting in July. And our intent is that in August, you will vote to elect your chair and vice chair to take over our DAC meeting. Should a member position become vacant, we can elect an officer to fill the vacancy. They would serve the remainder of that term until a successor is elected. And at the bottom of these screens, you're seeing Article 5, and that's just Article 5 within our bylaws. Next. The DAC may hold regular meetings monthly, which are subject to the requirements of the Oregon Public Meetings Law. Special meetings may be called by any 2 DAC members and an officer. Notice of all meetings and meeting minutes shall be provided. A quorum shall be present at a meeting in order for the DAC to transact business. A quorum consists of 6 members, which is a majority of our DAC members. All records of the DAC shall be subject to disclosure except as allowed by exemptions by the Oregon Public Records Law. Next. The principles of the parliamentary rules of procedures, such as Robert's Rule of Order, shall govern proceedings at the meetings of all meetings of the DAC. The chair's decision on procedural matters may be overruled by a majority of the members voting on the question. The DAC may establish a more detailed hearing process and procedure to provide for an orderly process of holding public hearings. And all meetings shall comply with Oregon public meeting laws. Next. The District Advisory Committee may from time to time create committees or subcommittees as required to promote the purposes and objectives of the DAC. The chairperson for each committee shall be selected by the DAC chairperson. Bylaws may be amended by at any regular DAC meeting, provided written notice at a prior regular meeting. Amendments must be approved by County Council and Board of Directors. The DAC may not amend Article 4 membership in any way that differs from the requirements of our IGA between the district and the city of Milwaukee. And I'd like to bring Stephen Madcore from County Council to join us to share all of our legal requirements as being part of the District Advisory Committee and advising our Board of Directors.
I switched him to a
Yeah,
panelist, but
I see Stephen's here. I don't see his microphone or his photo microphone. He might not be available right now. I know he was here earlier. We will go ahead and move on to the next slide. I believe Heather was going to talk about upcoming meetings.
Yeah, thanks, Candy. We have done some planning tentatively because this is subject to change, but we wanted to do some planning to really figure out how to get us going toward establishing a foundation, since all of you have a different background with North Clackamas Parks and Rec, knowing different things, being more familiar or less familiar. So we wanted to start really getting everyone's feet under them, and then because we have been really looking forward to having our DAC up and running, but we haven't had this group on board yet, we do have a lot of business that we really want to work with you on. And so we're trying to also really get to business pretty quickly. So I think it's going to be, kind of a lot in the beginning to sort of absorb, and, please let us know when you have questions so we don't, plow forward too quickly. But we are trying to take this meeting to really do this overview of the DAC. And then in July, we want to take the time to really do a kind of a comprehensive district overview. And then part of July outside of the meeting, as you've now gathered, is to do some tours of different park sites and facilities. And there's going to be another slide on that. So I'll leave more discussion on that for just a moment. And then we'll be looking at a Milwaukee Center name change update from our staff. And then in August, we're going to have some time at a couple of meetings to actually introduce you to our staff and divisions, so you have a little bit of an idea of the structure of Ncprd and the people, kind of working behind the scenes. We also wanted to pretty quickly get into review of some capital projects, because we have a couple of big capital projects moving forward right now, and we really want to make sure you are able to not only understand those projects, but really begin to weigh in on those. We'll also be looking at election of officers, as Candy mentioned at the August meeting, and looking at naming of a new park at Boardman Wetlands. And then in September, again, we'll continue with some departmental introductions, and we'll initiate some discussion on our Metro local share. So there's some the Metro bond that passed in 2019. Those funds, those allocations are beginning to now be available for communities, local agencies to accept. But we will need to do some work to understand what that means and set some priorities. So we have a couple of meetings in September and October to talk through that. And also to get into some other aspects of our funding, like our SDCs, which you'll learn a lot about if you don't know about them yet. That's short for System Development Charges. And also in October, our CIP update, which is Capital Improvement Plan. So those are all the projects and improvements that we plan to make over, X number of years. And those all in their own right are really big topics. So you'll be getting introduced to some very big things very quickly. And then into the fall, we have a lot of other, big initiatives coming up that we want to make sure you're at the forefront of. And as far as the district tour, you already have received those invites to the doodle polls. So thank you everyone for responding. We really do have critical mass now. The dates next week were the hardest to get everyone on the same day. So we just realized we could get everyone together, almost everyone together, if we just did 2 different dates. So right now we have a number of people who can attend on June 22nd, which is next Tuesday, and a number of people who can attend on Wednesday, June 23rd. So each of those has its respective times, and we'll be looking at different sites at each of these tours. So on this first set of tours next week, we'll travel from Spring Park and the trolley trail over just a bit north to Milwaukee Bay Park, and then we'll head east to Wichita Park, and then to the Wichita School property. On Thursday, July 15th, we also have critical mass for a daytime tour. And we're going to look at some of the parks in sort of the more northern section and have a good look at those. We have Altamont Park, Aquatic Park, and the Harmony Road Neighborhood Park, Pfeiffer Park, which is a little bit further east in our district, and the Clackamas School property. So covering a lot of ground in that tour and really trying to introduce you to different parts of the district. And then Tuesday, July 20th is our third tour date. And that's in an evening. And we'll be looking at the Concord property, the park at Boardman Wetlands, the Stringfield Family Park, and the North Clackamas Park with the Milwaukee Center. So, obviously it's really difficult to get every person at every tour. Please attend what you can. You certainly can visit the sites on your own, and we're putting together a really wonderful tour packet to give you sort of an overview of each of the parks. So if for some reason you're one of the people that can't attend on a certain date, please rest assured that we'll get a packet to you with the information, and all the addresses are on there, so that if you do want to go and do a little bit more of a self-paced tour because you aren't able to attend, that will be an option. Let's see, what else about tours? Candy, do I have a time to just do a quick logistical thing regarding the tours with everybody? Or do you
Yes,
want to?
as because Stephen was here and then I think we lost him again. So I'm sure he'll
shoot.
join us again here
Okay.
in a minute, hopefully.
All right.
Well, he can reach us by phone. So it's for some reason
here.
he's been dropping out. So look for a phone number.
He's just on the screen now.
I'm here. How are you guys?
Welcome, Stephen.
You keep booting me for some reason. I keep getting evicted. Are you good? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, do we want to go back to Stephen's slide? And since he's currently with us and not kicked out yet.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. We use him while while he's connected.
Okay. Well, thank you, folks. So I'm Stephen Madcore. I'm your county council, and thank you for volunteering for this very important committee. I helped earlier draft your bylaws, and Candy did an exceptional job presenting them to you. I would encourage you to take a close look at them, and they are going to be your operating agreement. That is going to be your guidepost on your group functions, your purposes, your goals, your quorum requirements, your attendance requirements and vacancy requirements and things along those lines. So it's basically your rules of conduct are contained in your bylaws themselves. And she also went over, and Amy went over your rules of conduct, and that is applicable to all advisory boards and committees in Clackamas County, as well as to the hamlets and the villages. And part of that is compliance with Oregon Public Meetings Law, which is what you're doing right now. You're having a public meeting. It was duly noticed. It's being recorded. There will be minutes. Public is invited to observe. And you also have public records law. And as volunteers, you might not be necessarily aware of the requirements of the public records law, but that is basically anything that you create that's in furtherance of your involvement with the DAC for the Parks District is going to be considered a public record, whether it's on your private email or your sticky note or your phone text messaging to fellow board members about committee business. Those would be public records, and there's retention requirements associated with those as well. So you can't destroy them. You cannot delete them. You're supposed to retain them. And I'm not sure, Candy, does the group have a county email address, or is it all just through private servers? Do you know offhand?
We have a county email, dac@ncprd.com, that would be distributed to all DAC members.
Excellent. That's a great resource for you. And so make it easy. Just use that email for all your committee business and you will be fine, because the county will retain those in its email server. But again, if it concerns the district's business and your involvement in your capacity and your scope as a volunteer member, then it will be a public record, potentially subject to disclosure under the public records law. You also have Oregon government ethics law requirements. And as a volunteer, you are considered still a public official. So the same ethics law that apply to Commissioner Savas, who is your ex officio liaison, also apply to you all as volunteers. And it really, I don't believe you're going to be presented with many situations in which you're going to have issues with it, but there is the conflicts of interest. There's a potential and an actual conflicts of interest. You're an advisory board, so you're not making the final decision. So that removes you from some of the more challenging. I'm getting some feedback here. Is that me? What's that?
Yeah, there's you.
Okay, hold on. Better? I got logged back onto the computer. So there's a manual and I can send it to you, and I would encourage you guys to take a quick look at it. It is the Oregon Government Ethics Manual. They just revised it. I will send a copy to Candy and she can circulate it to the group. Again, it's going to be ethics, it's conflicts of interest, potential and actual. If it's an actual conflict, then you have to declare it and you can't participate in it. And it's the financial gain or the avoidance of financial detriment. So for example, if you're building a park and you run a landscape company and you vote in favor of hiring your landscape company to do the work, that would be an actual conflict. But since you're advisory, you're not necessarily making the final decision. You're making recommendations to staff and to the board of directors. So the chances of running afoul of that aren't probably too high, but you should know about it nonetheless. There's also the prohibition on government officials. Again, as volunteers, you would qualify, which prohibits political activity on public property and or public email systems and while on the job itself. So you shouldn't be advocating for or against political measures, people running for office, or even if the group were to have, let's say, a bond measure or some other measure going out to the ballot, after it were to be referred, you as volunteer members and your staff would be prohibited from advocating for or against those particular political measures. So that's just another layer of obligation and responsibility that is imposed upon you due to the volunteer nature of your work on behalf of the Parks District itself. And Candy, is there anything additional you want from me that you know of?
I don't think so, but I did want to open it up in case anybody had any questions.
Sure.
For you. I think Grover may have a question. Go ahead.
Right. So if we have these liabilities and we're acting as a public official of Ncprd, which is a Clackamas County agency, I am curious and concerned. Most boards I'm on, there's a form of directors and officers insurance or something to that effect. And I'd like to know in what way we have that kind of coverage, because you said the likelihood is slim, but you didn't say there is none of our liabilities. So can you address how the county provides us with that legal protection?
The county does not typically provide officer and directors insurance coverage for its A, B, and Cs. It did extend a little insurance to some of the hamlets or CPOs for that matter. And we can take a look at that. But what we're talking about here, Grover, is an ethics violation or a public records violation or an electioneering violation. Every single one of those is personal to the individual. So if there were a public records or a public meeting violation, it doesn't go to Clackamas County or the Parks District. It would go to Grover. It would go to the individual who is the alleged offender. Same with the ethics. Ethics is a personal issue. You would be personally on the hook for it. And that's why it's viewed, that's why insurance does not cover intentional acts. It's against public policy is the way the courts look at it. And the same with a public records or an elections or an ethics violation. It's against public policy if the governmental entity were to provide defense and indemnity for somebody offending those particular statutes. So even if you had officers and directors insurance, it would not cover those acts. Otherwise, in the course and scope though, if you were acting in the course and scope of your capacity, and yeah, and there were to be, let's say, a lawsuit or a claim for somebody saying that this group denied them First Amendment protections at one of your meetings, we would be able to defend you in that capacity. Typically. But you're no different. You're no different than any of the other ABCs. I mean, it's the same responsibilities and same obligations across all of them.
Okay, I still feel that so we have a liability risk by being on this committee. That is true, and there's a possibility the county would cover us if it met certain criteria, but we don't know until it happens.
You are correct with that. I would say that's correct. I think advising you of your responsibilities under state ethics law, state public records, public meetings law, and elections law, it exposes you to something that you as a private citizen not volunteering for the government would not otherwise be subjected to. You are correct. In my 10 years with Clackamas, I've never seen one. Not saying it won't happen, but I haven't seen one. Chances are remote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anata, did you have a question?
Not anymore.
Is there anyone else that has any questions for Mr. Madcore?
Excellent.
I'm not seeing anything. Stephen, we appreciate you joining us.
Hey, my pleasure. Good work, you people. And I'll circulate those manuals from the state, Secretary of State and the Ethics Commission to you. And if the board members have any questions for council, feel free to give me a call or email. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good. We all set?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'd love to go back to the slide, Molina, on the, actually, we can hold on the slides for just a second. I wanted to just find out for the meetings going forward. Candy had spoken with everyone, and we are confirmed to go ahead with the second Wednesday as our standing meeting time. But what we do need to do is figure out if we want to start at an earlier time. We are looking at whether to start at 5, 5:30, 6, or 6:30. And so, you know, no matter when we start, we'd be looking at a 2-hour duration unless there's a special circumstance and there's something that we would extend the meeting for. But generally speaking, 2-hour meetings and starting at anytime between 5 and 6:30. So I think maybe the easiest way to do this versus sending out a bunch more doodle polls is just to have a show of hands. And maybe we just start and see where the critical mass is, and then we can boil it down with some other alternatives. So let me start with 5. Is anyone wanting to have the 5 o'clock time? Okay, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, how about the 5:30? Okay, we've got 2, 3. Okay, can you put your hands up again? I think I missed someone. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Kind of 2 halves make 5. Okay, so how about, of course, my cat wants to come now. How about 6 o'clock? Does that work better for anybody? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You guys are going to split this on me and make it hard. Okay, how about 6? How about, let's see, that was 6 o'clock. How about 6:30 as we did tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have we have it all around. You guys would all like different meeting times, and some of you didn't have too many hands up, so I think you're probably flexible. So let's do one more try at this. It seems like 5:30 and 6 are the best times overall. So if you could pick the one that's best for you out of those two, just pick one. We'll start with 5:30. Okay, and how about 6?
We're 5 and 5.
Of course. All right, let me try something else.
So we're going to call Desi.
Yeah, we might have to call Desi because he has not been asked. But is there anyone that would be unable, like there's just something so conflicting on a second Wednesday at 5:30 that you could not accommodate that if you needed to? Okay, seeing none, how about 6? Is that a deal breaker for anybody? And we know from time to time there will be conflicts, and but hopefully one of those 2 times works for everyone. So let's plan on a 5:30 or 6 going forward. And yes, we will check in with Desi, but it sounds pretty close. It sounds like we could do a little bit, we could do one or the other and be pretty successful. Okay, so the other last business is something sort of yummy, which is we have the tours coming up, and we want to make sure that, you know, they're 3-hour blocks. And of course, if you're having a blast, you might want to even stick out around at a park later. So we want to be able to give you some nourishment some of the tours are at dinner time, and some are, you know, kind of like right at the tail end of the lunch hour. And so I wanted to see with a show of hands for the tour next week if you're going to the Tuesday tour, which I saw that about 5 of you said that was the better day for you. How many people would like a lunch on Tuesday? Or excuse me, it's a dinner box. Like it's probably a sandwich. And I think you all conveyed allergy concerns already. So how many of those 5 of you would like to have a box meal on Tuesday evening? No takers. I'm not putting like liver in them or anything. No takers? Okay. We are expecting some warm weather, so we will have some waters just to kind of keep everyone hydrated, maybe some snacks or things if you didn't have time to eat. If you change your mind, please send us an email. What's the best email that they can use to contact us, Candy?
I should just email Jessica.
Okay. So you guys all have Jessica's email. She's the one that was contacting about the doodle polls and all these meeting Zooms. So yeah, please contact her if you've changed your mind. And if you can do that by Friday morning, that'd be really helpful. And we'll go ahead and order anything if that makes sense for you. We were most concerned particularly about people coming from work and not, you know, missing their lunch or missing their dinner. We didn't want you to be starving. So, okay. For the Wednesday people, 1 to 4, is there anyone that would like a box lunch for then? I really don't put liver or anything in it, like no cat food, no, you know. Okay, all right. So we will skip the lunches, and we will just have some refreshments to keep everyone hydrated, and maybe a few snacks in case you show up hungry. Yes, Grover.
Are we good? I'm not quite clear of the transportation arrangement. It's not clear to me what we do.
Yeah, so we'll send out some more information on the tours, but right now we have the parks in a sequence so that you can come to each in turn, and each one will have the address, so we will have everyone use their own transportation for these tours. I think in an ideal universe we'd all kind of hop on a bus together, but that's still a bit tricky with COVID, so we're having to do an alternate approach. If you do have any mobility issues or transportation concerns, can you also please contact Jessica? We want to make sure we've accommodated everybody. So again, we'll be sending out some confirmation information on those tours, and we're really excited about them. We're excited to see how many people are going to be available for all the different dates, and we'll hit about 4 parks in every tour to give you a bit of a flavor on the whole district. But of course, we're not going to see all the parks, but we did want to highlight at least some of them to start. Is there anything else, Candy or Molina, on the tours or the agendas that I left out? Thank you, everybody.
Amy, I'm not sure if you're going to pick up, but we actually on our agenda, we have citizen participation. And so if we have any citizens that are interested, I see Lindsay has her hand raised.
Okay, so I'm seeing Lindsay with a question. Is that right?
She also has a hand raised, I believe.
Okay, I can't see that. I'm not the host, so. So is this it? Citizen feedback, Justice Park in sub-area 3 has been in process for 30 years. Our area is an oak desert and there is no park to walk to. So Lindsay.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
Yes, that was a typo. It was supposed to say park desert. So hopefully that makes a little more sense. So I will apologize in advance because I helped the citizen volunteer crew kind of get the DAC seated, and my real goal was getting a park at Justice Property. And so now that you all have taken the reins and are doing such a lovely job from the very first meeting, I'm going to be like a dog on a bone, because the person who won't forgive me is my daughter, who wants a park to walk to, and we don't have that. So I just wanted to say from the very beginning, I'm thrilled. I'm very excited to support other projects. And I loved hearing at the beginning of the meeting about everybody's, great park memories. And what I heard over and over again was how important it was for people to have experienced parks and nature as children. Okay, honey. Okay, give me 1 second. We're almost done. And how important it is to just get kids in nature. And so I'm here for that. And I'm hoping that we can move really fast to get this done, because the property was bought in 1993 and it's been sitting there. It's supposed to be a park. It's not a park. So go Justice Park. And I think there's a couple of other concerned community members who may want to speak as well, or who are posting in the chat. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindsay. And I'm seeing Deborah's hand up, but since this is citizen participation, how do you usually handle that?
For Lindsay, I have a question for Lindsay.
Okay.
Yes.
This is for Lindsay. Can you tell me approximately where Justice Park is?
Yes, it is on, so it's in sub area 3. It's on 122nd Avenue. It's just south of Sunnyside Road. And it's just I'm forgetting the cross street there, but if you're going south on 122nd, it's on your right, just past the church. And it's a big open lot. There's a big tree. And I know initially the plan was to hopefully buy the property next to it, which is a home. And I don't know anything about the residents and whether they want to sell or not, but it's about 3 acres. It's plenty of room for a park. And we're ready. We have a lot of community members who are ready to volunteer their time and work really hard to make this happen.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and drive by.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Who's next?
Jeanette de Castro.
Jeanette, can you?
She's
there you
just
are.
Joining us.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. I couldn't find that button. Hi, I'm Jeanette de Castro, and I've lived in Clackamas County for about 5.5 years with my family. So we're multi-generational, 2 grandparents, 2 parents, kids 4.5 and 9. I do have a lot to say. I will disclose that Lindsay definitely highlighted this for me on social media. She's someone I'm just acquainted with a little, but I really trust her judgment in the interactions I've had with her. So I didn't know much about the Justice property. It really seems like if something was purchased 4 years before I graduated high school, it might be time. It would be great if that could be considered. And I wanted to say too, I took some time to skim through the master plan. I'm not sure what the status is of that. It's labeled as a draft from 2014. So it may, I don't know, with all of the turbulence and changes. And by the way, thank you for bearing with that, everyone. I'm sure that was really hard, and I only just saw it from a very far distance. Is that I noticed some things that I have questions on. I didn't see climate change featured very much in the plan. I may have missed it. I'd love to see that in future plans. I'm unsure why parks and playgrounds that are part of public schools are not included in the mapping or in terms of access to parks, and what that dynamic might be. You know, there's access to parks, but I feel it doesn't strongly consider safe routes for walkers, bikers, people who use accessibility devices. It doesn't seem to factor in public transit. In my neighborhood, we're bounded by Mount Talbert, Southeast Sunnyside Road, and a shopping center. So walking on Southeast Sunnyside Road is a big concern for me. There's what's called a GRASP analysis, and I barely know anything about it, but it talks about walkability. And ODOT jurisdiction roads seem to be a boundary for walkability. You don't want somebody walking across 212 to get to a park, right? I don't feel comfortable walking across Sunnyside Road. I'll share that the average daily traffic account for one day on Sunnyside at 122nd is 33,695 from 2018. Going east to 157th, over 28,000 cars per day or vehicles per day. West of 172nd, which is developing with including residences, is 19,000. So the safety is a big concern to me. I'm sure you could talk to the Clackamas County Transportation Advisory Board. You know, they might have feedback too about access or safe routes to school about access. You could maybe borrow from some of their work. But that access is part of equity too. And I really wanted to add that because there are some great parks I can drive to, but who wants to drive to go to a park? I mean, maybe you have to. I have to right now. And I'll say something else. I'm a member of Clackamas County Showing Up for Racial Justice. So that is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I'm so pleased you're all here. I notice the group does skew very white, maybe a little older, and I'd really recommend, and I mean no offense, I'm sorry, I really recommend, especially to staff, when you're looking for community feedback, to really take that effort to get feedback from people who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, to talk to young people who may not be able to fit an advisory committee meeting in their life. Maybe encourage students to join, knowing that maybe you'll get them for a term and then they go. But that kind of feedback is going to be really, really important and really vital. And my last really passionate thing, I've talked for quite a while, thanks for bearing with me, is access for folks who have different abilities. My father-in-law uses a walker. We don't go to parks anymore. So we'd love to have parks that we really felt like we could get to, especially close to us. So really excited. Go Justice Park.
Great. Thanks,
And
Jeanette.
thank you all for the ear. Take care.
Thank you. So who's next? We've got another person in the chat, but would you like to speak as well? Ashley?
I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay. So are we ready to close citizen participation?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. So I did see something from Anada in the chat. Did you want to address that one? Oh, I'm seeing somebody saying, can I put you on pause for just a second. I'll read Ashley's comment in the chat. It says, another Clackamas County resident here that is hoping to make the Justice property a park. Our area east of 205 and west of 140th south of Sunnyside is unincorporated Clackamas and has no community parks. There are many families that would be greatly served by a community park. Thank you so much for considering. And that's Ashley Langan. Thank you, Ashley. Okay. All right, so we'll close the citizen participation, and then I'm going to go to Anada for your comment.
So I have two things, well, more than two, but two things on my mind that I'd like to speak to tonight. One is that with our new DAC and the new bylaws, it's a time where we're launching a greater and broader community participation level in Parks Matters. And one of the main responsibilities of DAC members is to deliver input from constituents to NCPRD and the governing board. And in the bylaws, it says that the DAC chair will assist the director, the NCPRD director, in setting meeting agendas. And I'm thinking that for the agendas to best reflect community wishes, it's worth considering that all interested DAC members would assist the director in setting the agenda. And that way, the agendas would include items that are requested by residents. So that's one of the things on my mind. And I don't know if we want to have a discussion about that or if I should go to the other thing I have on my mind.
I can share that at the meetings, what you'll talk about things and you can also send items to Jessica to include on the agendas, and the chair would finalize, the agenda meeting. The next thing on this agenda is the DAC member reports and updates. So each DAC member will always have an opportunity to speak and share at every meeting as well. And after that, we can also, share additional things that we want to bring up to have on the agenda, or if we have other citizen groups or anything that would like to present to the DAC and be included in those meetings as well in the future.
So I'm not sure, I just need a little clarification. So at a meeting of the DAC, we could talk about things we want to be on the next agenda, or between meetings, we could interact. And
if you had topics you could bring up at the meeting. And so I think Heather shared some things. So one of the things on our end, obviously, is we're working on bringing all of you up to speed with the district operations, what we're doing, and things that are going on in the district. So we've identified a few things that we will be sharing, just general operations or these park tours, just to help educate and share information about the district. We also have a backlog of important items that haven't been addressed because we didn't have a DAC. And so we have gone through timelines knowing that we've got to get business going as well. And so we've added those kind of onto these meetings. But there is definitely room for additional items to be brought up and discussed at the meetings as well. But the way the bylaws read, typically, 2 weeks before the meeting, I believe the director meets with the chair and they talk about the things that are going on. So if you had specific items, you could definitely share those with Jessica so that they would go to the director, and you could copy or share it directly to the chair so that they bring those together and have all those topics and decide, reprioritizing and as to what they're going to bring up at the next meeting. That's how I anticipate that.
And the other thing I have on my mind is the 3-zone system that, if I understand correctly, there was a Milwaukee City Council meeting some time ago where the NCPRD staff advocated to end that 3-zone funding system. And the Milwaukee City Council agreed and passed a resolution to end the zones. but it hasn't been changed in the budget yet, and it hasn't switched back to the original funding model. And what is it we need to do to get that to move forward?
I believe you're talking about our SDC zones. And that is one of the topics that we have in queue that we need to discuss. I'm thinking 3 years ago, Happy Valley left the Parks District. And so we started evaluating the SDCs and worked diligently. We had a large group from our district advisory board and citizens that participated in that. And as we were coming to a conclusion, we were notified that the city of Happy Valley actually didn't leave the district and was still part of our district. So that kind of put that on hold. But as of July 1st of this past year, 2020, Happy Valley is officially out of our district. And so we are in a position to have that reevaluated and bring that forward. So that is one of these things that actually it was brought up that is scheduled to come, I believe early fall. So it's probably like September, October when you'll start hearing about that information.
Great questions. Thank you, Anata. Okay, I just want to point out that it's at 8:25 and we've scheduled till 8:30. So let's see how much more time we need in this meeting tonight before you all sign off. If you want to stay, if we need a few more minutes, I'll ask your permission for that, but let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. So member reports, or will we have any of those tonight?
This is an opportunity for each member to share if they have anything they'd like to share or discuss.
Okay. Joel and then Grover.
I'll be brief, but I just want to welcome and encourage everyone here, and hopefully you'll encourage your constituents. The Great American Barbecue, the annual event held at the Milwaukee Center, will be July 9th. It benefits the Meals on Wheels program, which is a tremendous program. And it's a kind of grab and go this year. It does require pre-registration, and I'll throw a link in the chat, but I would appreciate it if hopefully we can see some faces here, there, and if you could encourage your constituents again to attend. Again, it's a great fundraiser for the Meals on Wheels program.
Thanks, Joel. Grover?
All right, thank you. I had two quick items. One of them, I want to tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you the other one. I'd like some sort of update where we stand on the director selection process. And the second thing I would like to speak to is the reality that we are one district, and the segregated funds in the 3 zones is a violation of us being in one district. And the sooner that gets addressed, the better. And I appreciate we can't move any faster than we can move. But having us look at one district, and then if we're going to go through our capital improvement plan, it needs to be looking at it from the equity distribution. And that doesn't show up in any of the existing documents. It says it's in zone 1, 2, or 3, but we're not looking at it proportionally. And so I'm making a very specific request that when we look at the capital improvement plan, every item on there is identified as which sub area it is affecting. And then I'd also like us to be able to look at all resources within the district. What sub area are they in, so that we can actually see how equitable we are? Because to hear those folks talk out in the Sunnyside area that they have no parks, we need to address those things. Not this second, but that's the things I need to get into our agenda from my perspective. But back to where do we stand on the district?
Okay, and I think that's next after members are done with their member reports. Thank you, Grover. Is there anybody else a member that wants to speak up? Ryan?
Yeah, just real quick. I've been listening to, sorry, I'll lower my hand, been listening to the citizens speak, and this really comes down to, I think we as a district really need to think about our refresh of our system plan, not master plan, but a system plan, which talks about everything, and really talk about, it keeps coming back to equity. and that's equity in for marginalized identities and communities, as well as racial socioeconomic. So I think it's a really important thing that we need to think about as a group is how are we going to do the system planning? Because what we have no longer works in today's era. And it's time that we refresh and kind of bring it to the forefront of 2021. So.
Great, thank you, Ryan. Any other member reports for tonight? Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just want to just building on what Ryan just spoke to, and then one of the citizens spoke to, and maybe staff can make sure that people have access to it. But the draft master plan that one of the citizen members spoke to is indeed, that was with Happy Valley as part of the district, but the existing master plan, which really covers the district more like what it looks like today, is something maybe that everyone should read as well. I would suggest both. They're designed differently, but I completely agree with the fact that they're both outdated and they really need to talk about and include equity, diversity, and inclusion, all those factors into that, and the people we serve. And so it is out of date. They're both out of date, but they do speak to some of the inequities. The existing one speaks to the inequities of assets within the district, particularly. I think that's a little bit interesting, and the approach and the modeling is a little bit different, but they're both informative. So I would encourage all of you who want to get up to speed to maybe just look at both and realize how much work we have ahead of us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I imagine that staff is capturing these comments also in the interest of serving the last agenda topic, future meeting topics, but I want the director reports to be the next thing we talk about. And then if there are any more agenda items for the next meeting, go ahead and be thinking about those too. And we are right at 8:30, so let's go ahead and see if we can wrap up our meeting with everything we hope to do. So Deborah, did you want to say something before I pass on to Candy?
Maybe it wasn't quite clear. Are you going to send out some packets about the tours to us ahead of time?
I think that's what Heather said. Heather, you're going to pass out information about the tours to the members?
Well, pass out, are we going to get something ahead of the tour?
Yeah, my understanding was we would be sending it by email. Is that correct, Molina?
It is, yes. Now that we have the dates and the times from the polling, we're just going to update the document that we created and send it out to the group.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Candy?
Yes, one thing I wanted to let you all know, the board adopted our budget this morning. So we are set for this next fiscal year. And I wanted to thank those of you that were able to participate in the meet and greet with the 4 candidates for the director position. Last feels like a year. Last week, we narrowed it down to the top 2 candidates, and Seve ended up withdrawing his application. And so Michael Bork is our final candidate. Last week he met with a few of our members of our board, and he also had a meeting with the county administrator. We anticipate probably be a couple weeks before we'd have any kind of formal announcement, and still very hopeful that we will have a new director by the end of July, first part of August. Just as far as a general update in that. I have several things I'd love to share with you. Staff is busy. We're doing a lot of things. Changes with OHA guidance definitely directs a lot of the things that we do within the Parks District. We've had Meals on Wheels, parks the entire year. That hasn't stopped or changed. We are gearing up and hiring, if you know anybody, part-time staff. But we've recently hired 60+ staff members that are in training. Next week, we start summer programming, camps, classes, virtual, as well as in-person programming. The aquatic park started filling today, and they plan to have additional programming starting in July. The Milwaukee Center is now allowed to open and planning to open on July 6th. Let's see, I know other people have asked questions. Spectators, we've got that in the works now that we're in low category. Spectators will be allowed at events at our sports complex. We still have OHA guidance that we're following. And so each group will have to follow those as well until all guidance has been removed. Let's see what else is going on. Volunteer events have started back up this spring. Anita had mentioned, I think that was at River Villa. We've had several other groups that have helped with our parks and natural areas, and those will continue. We recently had a pollinator event. It was mostly for kids, and they came to the park and picked up a pollinator kit. And then the next day they logged in on Zoom and learned about pollinators and planted their pollinator. Joel already talked about our Meals on Wheels fundraiser. Again, encourage you to sign up for that. We have a couple other things. We are having a river walk run challenge for the month of July. Information is online. We encourage people to select a length that they will walk during the month of July that tailors after one of our rivers and encourage active movement. We have free fitness in the park in July as well. Registration is already open for that. All programs are going to be held at North Clackamas Park for that program. We have drive-in movies that will be at the aquatic park and 2 movies in the park scheduled this summer. And registration for that will start on July 6th. And then we talked about our tours. So we do have tours next week, either Tuesday evening or Wednesday. And then on Thursday, the Concord Community Planning Task Force is meeting. And I just wanted to mention that in case you guys were interested in that. And then this meeting, our next DAC meeting, it will be July 14th at 5:30 or 6. Hopefully we'll be able to connect and it'll work into Desi's schedule as well so we can bring him into the group. And I just want to say thank you guys. I know a lot of you have you applied in August, and it's really exciting that we're actually here. And I can speak for all the staff that, you know, we need you. We value all your input, and we need that for our operations. We need your support as well in the things that we do. So we appreciate the fact that you're willing to volunteer and come to these meetings and provide that support for us. And that was all I had right now. I don't know if Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to share?
No, you covered it. Just so much going on. And again, a big thank you to everybody for this is really exciting and there's a great path forward. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was impressed with your annual report, and thank you for sharing that out as well to the group so they could get some of the statistics and understand really all of the things that are going on, and such good work.
And
right.
I just wanted to let everybody know, Commissioner Savas mentioned the master plan, and we did send you the link for that. That's the really large document. And I know a couple of you had started looking at it and have made comments already, but that is the master plan that he was referring to. And then you also had links to the budget that were sent to you as well.
Great. Okay, so if you have any future meeting topics, as Candy said, go ahead and email them to Jessica. Is that right? If they haven't been captured already in the conversation today, and just to make sure, you can send them to her again. So any other comments before we end the meeting? I appreciate you spending a few extra minutes to make sure we got through the whole agenda. All right, well, welcome everyone. Congratulations. You'll get to know each other better over the next year or so, or the whole term that you're serving. And thanks to staff for making all of this possible with all their great organizational skills and information that you'll need to be making decisions. And have fun on your tours. All right, see you later. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
So Candy, do you want to talk at all tomorrow, or just wait till next month to kind of get ready for the next meeting. Or tomorrow's a holiday. What am I thinking?
I was gonna say, I only have like 2 meetings tomorrow if you want to talk. We haven't finalized, or we need to figure out the time. We do
Yeah,
have
okay.
pretty much our planning document. We